Welcome to the Next Brave Step podcast. My name is Chelsy Weisz. Each week, we'll dive into how you can cultivate more joy, curiosity, and dare I say confidence to show up and do the work to achieve that vision of your life that maybe you've been just a little too afraid to even whisper out loud to anyone else just yet. This is a show for creatives who are ready to take themselves seriously, attract their dream clients, and build a business that reflects what they want for their life. I'm so grateful you're here. So let's go ahead and dive into the episode.
Hey, Makayla, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm coming off of a vacation, so I'm feeling pretty high.
So jealous. Well, first off, thanks for coming onto the podcast today. I'm so excited to be jumping back into the podcast, and you're the first guest that we've had with the new branding. So we're actually recording this before we officially announce like the new name of the podcast and everything. So
Be very exciting.
I don't know. I still feel weird, like even like saying what the name is out loud on the podcast because I haven't officially announced it to anyone yet.
I know, but it's so exciting.
Okay, so thank you for being officially the first guest on the Next Brave Step podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I feel honored.
So I guess for a little bit of backstory on who Makayla is. Makayla and I have worked together for almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah, I think it was August 2020.
Yeah. So she is my business coach, and she's also become like a really good friend of mine over the past couple of years. We've been through a lot of craziness, but I guess let's go ahead and start with, kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you have done in the past, what you're doing now, and how you got started with your business.
Absolutely. So hello, I'm Makayla Irvin. Thank you again for having me, Chelsy. So I work primarily in marketing, and the approach that I feel is really important to take with marketing is a very holistic approach. I have helped my clients show up in a way that is super authentic for them. I think in the business coaching world, there's a lot of do this and do that, and you have to, subscribe to these processes and these ways of presenting yourself to the world so that you'll be appealing to an audience. And really what I've truly found is that, first of all, you have to be 100% energetically behind the way that you're putting yourself out there. You can hype yourself up and subscribe to a certain way of doing things because somebody told you to for a little bit of time, but it's not going to be sustainable. So what's really important is that you are energetically behind the way that you show up. And it is 1,000,000% guaranteed that if you are being authentic to who you are, you're going to attract the kind of people that truly want to work with you. You're going to attract the best clients. And I know I can speak for myself in saying that I have had some of the best clients. You mentioned that, we were in a coaching partnership, and then we're also friends. And that is so true. It's happened to me so many times because I just chose to show up as myself, and that's how you find your people. And so that's the approach that I take with marketing. I'm super passionate about that. And yeah, I could probably talk the whole podcast on that, but we're going to stop.
It's okay. Rambling is allowed here today.
Good.
So how did you kind of start your business? Because originally you did not start out as a coach, right? You had another business before that. What did that look like, and how does that kind of transition look?
I did. You may have heard of this industry before. It's the photography industry. I did start off as a photographer, and before that, I did a lot of Etsy stuff and just little random businesses. So my breakout business was photography, and photography was a passion of mine for a really long time. Long story short, short story long, I put photography on the back burner for a while. I did not want to be a photographer because everybody knew a photographer, and I just thought, how would I even get clients? And this was back in my very beginning stages of business. So once I finally just could not ignore the urge anymore, I decided that I wanted to do it right. I was like, if I can look at two photographers that have, similar skill, one's charging, $7,000 wedding packages and the other one's charging $1,500 wedding packages. If the skill is the same, then what's the difference? And that's when I started trying to figure out what set those two photographers apart. Because obviously I wanted to be on the $7,000 wedding side. I wanted to be making a lot of money from the start. And that's when I started digging into like the brand and the marketing and just being authentic and being true to yourself and the way that you put yourself out in the world. And as I did that and started applying these things I was learning to my business, I was so freaking excited about it that I was like, I'm just going to start telling people. What started the podcast kind of, I guess, recording or documenting my journey. It turned into an unintentional, had people asking me questions. And then I finally had a girl say, hey, would you mentor me? And at that time, I didn't even know that was a thing. Business coaching or mentorship was a thing. And yeah, that's how it started.
So did you know that you always wanted to be like an entrepreneur? Because you said you had Etsy businesses even before the photography. Has that always been like something ingrained in you?
I think so. I started off, I think when I was like 10 years old, selling candy out of my bedroom in my apartment. I remember thinking, candy is great, but money is better. And, we lived in an apartment complex. There's a lot of kids around. And so I would take like the Halloween candy that I got or the Easter candy that I got, and I would just sell them for like a dime or a quarter for the chocolate and things like that. And I was always trying to find ways to make money. I would go to my grandparents' house and I'd be like, hey, what chores do you have? I always had a desire to be independent and to be able to make money when I wanted, how much I wanted, and when I wanted. And I think that's a really big trait of entrepreneurship. So yeah, I would say yes.
I would say that you're probably correct in that. So what is something that you wish that you had figured out in business earlier on, no matter what business it was that you were working towards? Is there like a certain thing that you're like, I wish I would have known this just a little bit sooner?
Yeah, I think it's belief in myself and kind of the inevitability of my success. And the thing is you're going to be as successful as you truly believe you're going to be. I think a lot of people approach entrepreneurship and like, let's see if I can make this work. And while it is true that you don't necessarily know if the way that you're approaching your business right now, or the thing that you're launching right now is going to be the thing that makes you successful, having your mind set that you will be successful is so important, because I think it takes a lot of the pressure off of the little things that you're trying to do to make yourself successful in your business. Instead of hoping that this course that you're launching, or this new package that you're launching in your photography business is going to be the thing that takes your business off. It takes the pressure off of it. And you're just kind of like, everything's an experiment. And I know that I'm going to be successful. I just wonder if this is going to be the thing that makes me successful. So yeah, I think I wish that I just knew from the beginning that I was going to be successful. It wasn't a matter of if, but when. Because I think it would have taken a lot of the stress off. It would have made the journey a lot more fun. That's my biggest advice.
Yeah, I think that's something I've definitely been leaning into a lot right now, as like I get ready to like rebrand and relaunch and kind of like reinvent myself. Is like, I think that's something that I have definitely had like an undercurrent of, is like, well, I'm gonna succeed no matter what I do. But really applying that in business has been something, like intentionally applying that to my business lately has been something we've definitely talked about a lot.
Yeah. It's a practice, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah.
you can believe it wholeheartedly for, 5 minutes, and then the next 5 minutes, you're like, oh no, everything's not okay.
Yes. Oh, the last couple days, like I feel like I've got so many things going on between like we're planning a birthday party, like I'm trying to finish up projects around my new house and like launching the podcast and like the website and
Yeah.
all the things. And like my brain, like we talked about it earlier, like my brain has just been everywhere. And so yesterday I like painted a room and just was listening to some audiobooks and was like getting my brain in the right space, even though I wasn't like actually working on work.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good to just like have that reminder of like you're going to be a success, but you don't have to hang like put all the pressure on like the thing that you're working on right now.
Yeah.
Which I think what was I listening to? I was listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad last night. I was painting and like that was like one of the things that he was really talking about that like I really kind of took in and I was like, yep, so true.
Yeah. I like to just to expand on that a little bit more. I feel like in a lot of the ways that I relate to myself, if I can switch it to like my kids. So if you think about a child, like whether you're a parent or not listening, if you think about a child, would you put the pressure that you're putting on your, let's say, thing you're launching right now? Would you put that kind of pressure on your kid, or would you approach it with, like, I know that you're going to be a success. It's not a matter of if, but when. I think so many times we're super, super freaking hard on ourselves. And the way that we treat ourselves, we probably wouldn't treat anybody else, but especially not a child. And, when you think about it, you really do just still have an inner child inside of you. And that's kind of the place that you're operating from all of the time. So yes, you're, big and tough now and you're resilient, you're an adult, but like at the end of the day, it's that inner child that you're really operating from. And if, you're being super hard and putting a ton of pressure, like if I were to sit there and tell my kid over and over again, don't spill that drink, like while they're walking, they're for sure going to spill the drink.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, so it's really, really important just to do everything you can to take that pressure off and just trust. You're inevitably going to get there. Just probably going to look different than you thought.
Yeah, I think so when I decided to hire you as a business coach, like I like had just this moment where I was like, I cannot what I'm doing right now is not working and I need someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But like I still had like I knew that I was on the right track, but I also needed like someone to like bounce ideas off of and just kind of talk through things like because I was like talking to my then husband and my friends and they were like kind of annoyed with me because I was constantly like talking about business.
Brain dumping.
Yes, and like they just didn't get it because they weren't in it and it's been so good to be able to like talk through these things with someone who like gets it and can offer like that
Yeah,
outside perspective of being like, hey, you're being too hard on yourself, let the pressure off, like have you thought about it in this way? And that has just been
yeah.
a point that it has moved my business forward in so many different ways and my life even. I feel like there's such an overlap of business and life for me anyways. I don't know
Oh
if
my
it's
God.
the same for you, but
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's got to be true for everybody, even if they don't want to admit it. But let's go there for a second. I know that we wanted to talk about, business coaching and that process of hiring a business coach. And I know you were talking about just now the beginning when you were like, you wanted to hire me as a business coach and things like that. I I think it's really important when you're going to hire a business coach that you're in a place like what you said where you're going to get there. Your intention with hiring a business coach is more about acceleration than empowerment. I think a lot of people get to the place where they're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'm out of ideas. I don't know, what to do. And they're looking to a coach to kind of like give them something that they feel like they don't have. And the thing is that's not what a coach is for. They may market themselves as that, but a coach is not there to give you something you don't have. A coach is there to help you take what you have and that inevitable success that we were talking about earlier and just speed up the process. I mean, make it easier and move you along at a quicker pace. And I think that is such an important intention to come from, because if you're hiring from a place of disempowerment, no coach, whether they tell you they can or not, can give you that empowerment. You have to empower yourself and say, I know I'm going to get there. I just don't want to wait that long. So I'm going to, invest in a coach that is worth it to me. And then we're going to speed this up.
I think one of the things I like when I first started with you was like I had all the ideas and like I wanted things to move very quickly, but I was still like working through the order of things to do.
Yeah.
And I like because I remember when I came to you, I was like, okay, this like it like once I decided to hire you, I hired you, and then I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before I like actually started with you. So like I knew I had hired you, I had already put money down, but like we hadn't officially started. But my brain, it was just like something clicked where it was like, okay, we're like kicking this into gear.
We're moving.
I came to you with like a whole like 1 year layout of like, okay, this is what I'm doing here, and this is what's happening then, and in 4 months this is happening. And I feel like you looked at me, you're like, whoa, Chelsy, chill.
I'm pretty sure I said it, but it was, for those listening, they don't know, but you were in like a group mastermind, a small intimate group mastermind. And it was the running joke the entire time that you were in this mastermind that you were the one with the color coordinated shit and the like, and everything was organized perfectly. And you had deadlines and you knew numbers. And we were all just like, Chelsy, how do you do it? Most organized client, hands down. But yes, it's motivating. It's so motivating when you're like, all right, I've got somebody and we're doing this together. And I highly urge anybody listening that if that is not the intention that you're coming at with the coach, just get there before you hire somebody, because that's when your most successful partnership will be too. If you're, looking, and I mean, it's true in relationships. If you think about it from relationships too, you don't go into a relationship with somebody looking for them to give you something that you're missing. It's, to make both of your lives better and to elevate, both of you. And I think that's like we were talking about, how you do business is how you do life. It all intertwines.
Yes. Oh, so true.
Very important distinction.
So I guess a little bit more background on what has your journey with coaching looked like as far as like hiring coaches yourself? Because I think, honestly, I think it's super important to, I guess my own personal opinion is if you're looking to hire someone who is in like the coaching realm, I think it's important that they themselves have had coaching and they're not just like, oh, I know it all just by myself, because I think there's so much more power in being like open-minded and knowing that you might not have all the answers, and like looking outside yourself for things, because I think so often we can get so closed-minded and being like, I saw this somewhere and like I made it work my own way, but haven't ever had anyone else look at things from like a 365-degree view, because I feel so often we only see like what's right in front of us and not like the whole picture. So what is your journey, I guess, look like with coaches?
Yeah. And like, to your point, I think it's really important, especially in like the high investment coaching, that the coaches you're hiring have had coaches, because there is it's not talked about a lot, but there is such an emotional roller coaster that goes into making those high investments and working with coaches. I personally used to beat myself up when any of my clients would go through a low point. And it wasn't until, I had clients and was coaching them and also was speaking with my own coach that she was like, Makayla, what do you think you're here for? Just to clap for them whenever they're winning? She was like, you're here for the low points. It was then that I was able to look back at my own investments in the years prior and just be like, oh yeah, I had a lot of low points. And I think there was a piece of me that was trying to protect my clients from that, because they're so tough and it's inevitable in business that you're going to have low points. and having somebody there that's, helping you not quit and telling you that this is normal and, helping you work through and navigate that is so important. And if you are hiring somebody that has not experienced that themselves, they may just not be equipped and be able to remind themselves that also they went through that too. It's not them. And, so anyways, yes, I think it's very, very important. And my own coaching journey from, I said earlier, I was talking about my journey and how I was like, I want to be a business coach. The second that girl came to me for mentorship and I was like, this is a thing. I started digging in. I was like, I think I literally Googled, what is a business coach? And of course, we know that brought up a ton of articles and just varying information. But I feel like I went on this just rabbit hole of trying to figure out what is a business coach and what do they do? And I think I had like 2 or 3 interviews with different business coaches and they all were like, you're not a fit. You're not a fit. And it was because I was looking for business coaches that were coaching like, 7-figure entrepreneurs. And I was like, I want to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. So I'm like having interviews with all of these coaches and they were like, you're not a fit. So I finally found one that, helped you develop your first program and actually create curriculum. And that was so exciting because, in the meantime, I had started a Facebook group and was just doing like little free lessons and dipping my toes into what it meant to actually lead people in that capacity. But I knew, first of all, I knew that I wanted to charge a premium amount for my coaching because that's one thing I feel like I did right from the start with photography and with coaching. I feel like I knew that I wanted it to be financially worth it for me. So I knew that I wanted to charge. And so the coach that I hired at the time was actually running a program called Permission to Charge. And I, just went after that. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to, learn from somebody that's also doing this and has a ton of credibility and things like that. So, yeah.
All right. So what do you think like the process of hiring really should look like? How important do you think it is to like really like vibe with your coach, if that makes sense? Because for me, I'm a very like gut instinct person. Like when I went to hire you, like I put out a call on the huge Facebook group and think, what did we have? There was like 200 and some people that commented. And I went through and created a spreadsheet of all of the people and like looked at everyone's like websites and Instagram. And then I think I ended up booking 5 discovery calls and you were my last one. And it's like, and by the time, and I know that that's not very typical. Like I definitely am like a person that's like, I make a decision and it feels good and I go with it. But I know that that's not everyone. So I'd kind of like to get like your perspective of like what that process can look like if you're not Chelsy.
If you're not doing it like you. Yes. And I actually remember distinctly asking you because, you were like, oh, I've had calls with 5 coaches. And I was like, why haven't you hired anybody yet? And you were like,
No one felt right.
Good question. Yeah, I believe that is what you said. Yeah. So for me, most of the time, I think besides that first time that I hired a coach, the first time I was like, I want a coach. I'm looking for a coach. And I went in and I did kind of a similar process to you. I can't remember. It's been a really long time. I can't remember if I put out like an all call in a Facebook group or something like that, but I had several coaches I was looking at. And, like I shared before, I did interviews and most of the time it wasn't me saying no, it was them saying no, which, that's a sign of a good coach when they're like, you're not ready for me. But any other time, I had been following that person for a long time. It was more of a marinated decision where I was like, I had in my mind, this is the person I'm going to work with next. Not ready yet. I had some very specific, I guess, not milestones, but that's the word that's coming to mind right now. Things that I wanted to have ready to go to know that I was ready to work with that coach. But a lot of times it was a longer process where I was following them for a while. I was taking in their content. I was seeing how they conducted themselves in an online space, watched some of their success stories, which we could get on a total soapbox about that. Anybody can put out a success story. But, watching their success stories, maybe following those people that they've worked with and just kind of really making sure that, again, I was coming from a place where I was already empowered and just wanted to partner with them to kind of elevate that versus feeling really low one day in entrepreneurship, because we all know that happens, and then scrambling and all of a sudden being like, oh no, I need a coach, and looking and searching and not sleeping until you find somebody and then hiring them within a 48-hour period. So yeah, I think that for everybody it's going to look really different, the process that you take in hiring. And I think the thing to remember, and you're going to roll your eyes because I have told you this a million times, you've heard me say it, but is to come from a place of love and not fear. You can make this same decision from a place of love or from a place of fear. You can decide to hire a coach, the same coach, out of desperation and thinking that if you don't hire them, it's going to be the thing that ends your business. You can also hire that same coach at that same time from a place of saying, I love myself and I love the prospect of who I, will be and how quickly I will move and things like that when I hire this coach. And so I think it's really important that no matter what your process looks like, that you're coming from a place of already being empowered and wanting to elevate that, coming from a place of love and not desperation or fear.
Oh, I love that so much. And so true. Like you preach that so much. And I think that has made such a difference in the way that I show up in my business. And it's given me a lot of freedom to kind of feel into things, which I don't think I really did as consciously as I did before I started working with you. I think I would really like, because I know we've talked a lot about how like my work, the way I work is very different than what mainstream entrepreneurship says that you should work.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to hyper focus and get myself like kind of psyched up for things and then like really dive in and do a ton of work for a few days, and then I just check out after that and I'll take naps and live the rest of my life and not be inside my business every day from 10 to 7 or whatever. That's a weird hour.
Yeah.
But like I think it's like working with you has given me, I guess, permission to lean into like what works best for me and myself and not doing everything because someone said that this is the only way to do it, but really kind of diving in like to find what works best for me. Because I think that's kind of the difference between working with a coach one-on-one versus like going through like a program, whether it's like a business program of like, this is how you set up your business and this is how you run sessions and this is like a pre-recorded thing, because that's really only showing you like one standard operating procedure. And like we as business owners and especially creatives, like whether it's photography or selling candy out of your apartment, like we are individuals. And like that I think is one of the biggest benefits of working with a coach is you get personalized things for what's going on in your life, your situation, your business, and not just like beat your head against a wall, because with like a pre-recorded course, like you don't really get that personalized feedback. And that's something that I don't think I could have gotten anywhere else besides coaching. And I don't think that is something you can really get anywhere else besides coaching.
No, yeah. And I think that's such an important distinction as well, because courses and pre-recorded master classes and things like that, I think they do serve a purpose, but that purpose is getting somebody's, I guess, getting a look at somebody's processes, getting a look at the way that somebody does something and using it, more for research, more to see, what can I take from this and apply to my business, not how can I duplicate this exactly. Because you said it, as business owners, especially as creatives, but just as humans and not robots, we're all different. And, even if you do something very similarly to somebody else, you're still going to have your own variations. And I hope you don't mind me sharing, but I know when you first came to me, one of your things was like, I will go hard for 2 weeks. and then I'll just lay off the brakes for 2 weeks. And you were like, I'm not sure. I feel like that's not consistent. And I think it's really awesome that we have finally come around to the place where we're like, that's how you work best and that's how you're going to work, And I don't know about you, and you can speak to this, but I think that that's just so freeing, and being like, oh my God, I don't have to change this thing that's worked for me. It actually can be the thing that makes me so successful, because I can't imagine you trying to force yourself to work 10 to 7 every single day and just be. So I think everybody gets so caught up in consistency, because consistency is something that we speak heavily on in the entrepreneur space, and especially the coaching space, is like, you've got to be consistent. Consistency is key. But we forget that working 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, or working 3 days for 12 hours a day and then taking 3 days where you don't work at all, that's still consistency. If you do that week after week after week after week, that's still consistency. It's just what your consistency looks like. And I think that's really important takeaway, and just like a mini coaching sesh for anybody listening, is like, find your consistency and then be consistent in that. And you can trust yourself.
That was also something that came up in the group coaching. I remember you talking about that, being like, well, what does consistency look for you? Because consistency for me is going to look different than what consistency looks like for someone else. And like, hearing you say that multiple times was just amazing. Like, to be like, it finally clicked somewhere along the line in the last 2 years. It's like, oh, okay, I don't have to change this. It's working.
Yes.
Not that I needed permission, but somewhere in my brain, I thought I did. And I guess it worked.
I think it's our conditioning, just growing up in a world that's been primarily corporate, and that's just recently switched to more of an entrepreneur friendly space. Even in the corporate world, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of people are, getting to make their own schedules now. And it's just a recent shift in that we are not conditioned that 9 to 5 is how you get success. And 9 to 5 is what you should work to get everything done that you need to get done to make the money that you want to make. And I think it is just conditioning. So, but yeah, consistency is key, but it looks very different for everybody.
Definitely. Okay, so just a couple more questions left for you. So one of my questions for you is like, what are some of the biggest breakthroughs that you have seen as a coach with your clients? What have been like the moments that you're like, yes, they got it, or like, celebrating their wins, whatever it is? What are some of the things that your favorites from the years that you spent coaching?
Yeah. So almost all of them that I was thinking, it's like a highlight reel playing in my head as you were asking the question, but almost all of them have revolved around my clients bringing me something that they're like, I wish I could do this, but nobody's doing it. Or I wish I could do this, but I don't think my clients would like it. And I'm always like, hard stop. If you wish that you can do it, just do it. I'm a firm believer that, especially as creatives, and I keep saying that, especially as creatives, all humans are creative. So, but especially as people that like really consider themselves to be creative and be unique and have these like quirky approaches at doing things, it is so important. It's like a divine gift, the urges that you get. And you can never go wrong by following them, especially again, if you hold them up to that filter of fear and love. So if we were to take, one of my favorite client stories, for an example, was another photographer who, lived in a very conservative state, but was very, very passionate about being LGBTQIA plus friendly, and not even friendly, but just like very almost like those are the clients that she wanted to work with. She was terrified though that she was going to be blacklisted by a lot of the other conservative vendors, and that she wasn't ever going to be able to really, really grow by kind of branding herself as that. And I knew from talking to this client that she was not going to be able to pretend for long anyways, because she was such an activist and so outspoken about these things. But she was just like, I wish I could just be like very vocal about this. And I was like, be vocal about it. And her business has never been the same. I actually just talked to her a couple weeks ago again, and she's just like, thank you so much for telling me that that's the direction that I need to go, or I guess affirming, she already knew, but affirming that that's the direction that she needed to go, because she has had so many opportunities. I mean, I'm talking magazine covers and just like dream partnerships. And she's also branched out and worked with some like really big companies to do their headshots in several states because of the way that she had branded herself and because of her inclusivity. And not only that, she loves every single one of her clients. So all of the things she was afraid of, being blacklisted, not being able to grow, and then having clients that hated her, or losing clients. Like she probably did lose clients. She lost a ton of clients, but they were people that she didn't want to work with. And she, like, her wallet never felt the sting of it, So I could tell a million stories like that, but they were all based around clients coming to me and saying, I want to do this, but either nobody in the industry is doing this, or I'm not supposed to do it this way per, so-and-so guru who thinks that they know everything. And then us talking through it and them just doing it anyways and seeing how successful it became.
Yeah, this is definitely something that we've worked through recently, you and I, as I've kind of like put together my own coaching programs and like packages. And one of them, like the first thing that came to mind was my VIP shooting day for wedding photographers, which I'm so excited about.
So excited about
that.
that.
Oh my goodness. But it was like, I had such a hard time. It's like, I've never seen this done before. And it's not normally, that's not something that I've ever seen offered. And like, I felt, I don't know, like it wasn't even my idea. It was like a past client or like coaching client of mine that was like, you need to turn this into a package. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yes.
Which is like a huge green light, by the way.
Yes.
Clients are like, I will pay you for this.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess I haven't really talked about it yet on the podcast, but like the VIP coaching or like shooting, I don't even know if it has a name yet officially, is basically like,
we just call it the thing. The thing we know about.
But I'm so excited. So basically, you get to come shoot a real wedding with me, and it's kind of like second shooting, but so much better because I'm like teaching the entire time, and you get to ask all the questions, and no question is too dumb to ask. And then you're also walking away with like an amazing portfolio. But that is something that I'm so excited to like launch and like see how it grows.
Me too.
But it's definitely one of those things that was like, I don't know, Makayla. My client says I should do it. What do you think?
Yes. And I think, you said it. It's an incredible value. Like, it's just like an accelerator. Like, you can come just being a photographer who's maybe never even shot a wedding and then leave after one day of shooting and not only have like actual firsthand experience at shooting a wedding with all of the things that you need to know, which for me, as somebody that's like a tactile learner, I have to do it with my hands to really actually learn it and feel confident. I'm like, oh my God, this is so valuable. But also, like you said, to have the portfolio, you have the receipts to show future clients, you would just be ready to go immediately after, 24 hours. So yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to work with the coaching clients that we have already lined up for it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So last question for you. I'm keeping this question from the last podcast, which I ended all my interviews on because I don't know, I'm a crazy plant lady who's also a photographer. But Makayla, if you were a plant, what plant would you be and why?
I want to say that I would be a sunflower, but I have like zero reason to back that up other than I absolutely love sunflowers. So if we're being realistic, I would probably be like an aloe vera plant because I am really low maintenance, but also like a little prickly.
And full of such goodness inside.
Absolutely. You look at it and you're just kind of like, that looks kind of prickly. But then you like open it up and you're like, oh, okay. This is actually good. I might put it on my face.
Or drink it. I mean, have you ever had the aloe drinks? Oh my goodness.
Yes, so good.
My kids call it my chunky water because it has chunks of aloe in it.
Chunky water.
I put that on my Instagram stories yesterday. I was like, yay, I got chunky water again. And I had like 3 people reply to me, water's not supposed to be chunky, Chelsy. I'm like, but have you tried it? So good.
Blink twice if you need help.
Awesome. Well, Makayla, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. For people who are interested in following you and your journey and keeping up with what you're doing in life, where can they find you, follow you, or track you down online?
Yeah, so of course my website, www.makaylaurban.com. That's ERVIN. Or on Instagram, I do a lot of sharing stories on Instagram, not so much posting anymore. But Instagram handle is at the whole Mac, M-A-K. So WHOLEMAK.
Awesome. And we'll have that link down in the show notes for everyone as well to go follow her and stalk her and see what's going on. But thank you so much for joining me for the podcast, being the first guest on the new show.
Thank you for having me. This has been so good.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Next Brave Step podcast. I hope you enjoyed diving deep into all the tips and tricks that you can use to help cultivate more joy, curiosity, and courage to create the business that works for your goals, not the goals of others. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would be so grateful if you could share it with others and leave a rating and review. As always, you can head over to the nextbravesteppodcast.com to download your free list of 55 blog post ideas for photographers. You can also find all the links and resources there in the show notes. That's it for this episode. I'll catch you next time. Bye.